I never thought I'd be writing this story from my own house, the very house my mother-in-law tried to sell out from under me while I was fighting for my life in the hospital. Life has a way of surprising you, though. Sometimes those surprises come in the form of betrayal from people who should love you, and sometimes they come in the form of justice served perfectly cold. My name is Olivia, and I'm 32 years old. I met my husband James 5 years ago at a charity event. He was the kind of man who could light up a room with his smile, but what really drew me to him was his gentle heart. We dated for 2 years before getting married, and those were some of the happiest days of my life. The only cloud in our otherwise sunny relationship was his mother, Margaret. From the moment we met, she made it clear that she didn't think I was good enough for her precious son. "Oh, you work in real estate development? How quaint," she'd say, her voice dripping with condescension. Little did she know that I wasn't just working in real estate. I owned one of the largest development companies in the city, operating under my family's name rather than my own. You see, my father taught me early on that true success doesn't need to be broadcasted. Let your work speak for itself, he'd say. So when I met James, I didn't flaunt my wealth or status. I wanted someone who would love me for who I was, not what I owned. James was that person. He fell in love with me when he thought I was just a regular employee at a real estate firm. Our wedding was simple, exactly how we wanted it. Margaret, of course, was horrified. "James, darling, surely you want something more elaborate?" she'd pressed, but James stood firm. We bought a modest house in a nice neighborhood, one of my company's developments, though nobody knew that, and settled into married life. Everything was perfect until 3 months ago when I started feeling unusually tired. At first, I brushed it off as work stress, but when I collapsed during a meeting, James insisted on taking me to the hospital. The diagnosis hit us like a truck. I had a rare condition that required immediate surgery and an extended hospital stay. "It's going to be okay, love," James would say, holding my hand through the long nights in the hospital. "We'll get through this together." And I believed him. What I didn't count on was his mother seeing my illness as an opportunity. It started small. Margaret began visiting more frequently. Always when James was there, she'd make comments about how expensive medical care was getting, how much the house must be costing to maintain with me in the hospital. "James, darling, perhaps it's time to consider alternatives," she'd say, her voice honey-sweet but her eyes cold as ice. Then one day, while I was drifting in and out of consciousness, I overheard her talking to James in my hospital room. "Darling, be realistic. The doctors say her chances aren't good. You need to think about your future. That house is too big for just one person, and the medical bills are piling up. I know a buyer who's willing to make a cash offer. We could have it sold by the end of the week." Even through my medication-induced haze, I could hear the manipulation in her voice. She was trying to convince my husband to sell our home while I was fighting for my life. But what made my blood run cold was James's response, or rather, his lack of one. Was he actually considering it? I wanted to scream, to tell her that the house was mine, that everything in that neighborhood belonged to my company, but I was too weak to even open my eyes. I drifted back into unconsciousness, my dreams filled with nightmares of coming home to find my house sold out from under me. The next few days were a blur of tests and procedures. My condition was improving, but Margaret's visits became more frequent and more insistent. She brought real estate agents to the hospital, supposedly to visit me, but I could hear them discussing property values in hushed tones when they thought I was sleeping. "James, I've already spoken to my friend at the bank," Margaret said one afternoon. "They can rush the paperwork through. Given the circumstances, they understand the need for speed." The way she said circumstances made it clear she was counting on my death to simplify the sale. I was getting stronger every day, though Margaret didn't seem to notice or chose not to. What she also didn't notice was that I was documenting everything, every conversation, every underhanded comment, every attempt to manipulate my husband into selling our home. It was all being recorded on my phone. Then came the day that changed everything. I woke up feeling stronger than I had in weeks. My doctor was amazed at my progress and suggested I might be able to go home soon. I asked James not to tell his mother. I had a plan forming. That afternoon, right on schedule, Margaret arrived with another real estate agent in tow. This time, she didn't even bother to lower her voice. "Now, as I was saying, the current owner is indisposed," she was telling the agent. "My son has power of attorney, and we're looking for a quick sale. The house could be yours by next week." That was my cue. I opened my eyes and sat up in bed, enjoying the way Margaret's face drained of color. "Actually," I said, my voice stronger than it had been in weeks, "the house isn't for sale. In fact, None of the houses in that neighborhood are for sale unless I decide to put them on the market. The real estate agent looked confused. Margaret laughed nervously. Don't mind her, she's on quite a lot of medication. Now, about that offer. I reached for my phone and pulled up the property records for the entire neighborhood. Perhaps I should introduce myself properly, I said, turning the phone so they could see the screen. I'm Olivia Harrison Pierce, CEO of Pierce Development Corporation. We own not just my house, but the entire neighborhood, and I have to say, I'm very interested in why you're trying to sell property that doesn't belong to you. The real estate agent looked like he'd seen a ghost. He started stammering apologies and backing toward the door. Margaret's face had gone from white to red to purple. You're lying, she sputtered. This is some kind of trick. No trick, I said, pulling up more documentation. I've owned that neighborhood for 3 years. Did you really think I was just a regular real estate agent? I wanted James to love me for who I am, not what I own. He knew the truth 6 months into our relationship. I never keep secrets from my husband. James walked in at that moment, carrying a cup of coffee. He took in the scene, his mother's furious face, the retreating real estate agent, my satisfied smile, and started laughing. Mom, I tried to tell you to leave it alone. Olivia's company owns half the commercial real estate in the city. Did you really think we couldn't afford the medical bills? Margaret looked like she was about to explode. You knew? All this time, you knew she was rich? I supplied helpfully. Successful? The owner of the house you've been trying to sell? Yes, he knew. Just like he knows about every conversation you've had in this room for the past 3 months. I held up my phone. I've been recording everything. Would you like to hear yourself planning to sell my house while I was unconscious? The fight seemed to go out of Margaret all at once. She sank into a chair, her face ashen. I was just trying to help, she whispered, but even she didn't seem to believe it. No, James said firmly, you were trying to control me, just like you always have, but I'm not that little boy anymore. Mom, I make my own decisions, and I chose Olivia. If you can't respect that, if you can't respect her, then maybe it's time we reconsidered our living arrangements. Margaret's head snapped up. What do you mean? I smiled, feeling stronger by the minute. Well, as your landlord, I've been very concerned about reports of a tenant trying to conduct fraudulent real estate deals. Perhaps it's time for you to find somewhere else to live. That's right, Margaret's house, the one she'd been living in for the past 2 years, was also owned by my company. She'd been renting it at below market rate, though she didn't know that either. You can't do this, she gasped. James, tell her she can't do this. James took my hand and squeezed it. Actually, Mom, she can. And after what you've tried to pull these past few months, I think she should. Margaret stood up, her legs shaking. This isn't over, she threatened, but her voice lacked conviction. Actually, it is, I said calmly. You have 30 days to find new accommodation. And Margaret, if I ever hear about you trying to sell property you don't own again, these recordings will find their way to the real estate board. I'm sure they'd be very interested in your creative approach to property sales. She left without another word, her heels clicking angrily on the hospital floor. As soon as she was gone, James burst out laughing. I've been waiting 3 months to see that, he said, wiping tears from his eyes. I wanted to tell her off every time she came in here with her helpful suggestions, but you made me promise to wait. I squeezed his hand. Timing is everything in real estate, I said with a wink, and in revenge. The next few weeks passed in a blur. I recovered fully from my surgery and returned home, to our home, which was definitely not for sale. Margaret found a new place to live, significantly less nice than her previous rental, and James limited his contact with her to holiday cards and the occasional phone call. Word got around about what she'd tried to do, and her reputation in the local real estate community was ruined. No agent would work with her, and her social circle, which had largely consisted of real estate professionals and their wives, shrank considerably. As for me, I went back to work, stronger than ever. Our company's latest development project is a luxury retirement community, absolutely no vacancies available for manipulative mothers-in-law. James and I are closer than ever. He says he falls in love with me more every day, especially after seeing how I handled his mother's schemes. We're expecting our first child now, a daughter. We've already decided that she'll learn early on what her grandmother never understood. True wealth isn't about what you own or what you can take from others. It's about integrity, love, and standing up for what's right. Margaret still tries to reach out occasionally, usually when she needs something. Last week, she called asking if there were any rentals available in our new development. I told her all the units were full, and they are full of people who understand that family means more than property values. I sometimes think about those days in the hospital, listening to her plot to sell my house out from under me. In a way, I'm almost grateful. It showed me exactly who she was, and it gave me the perfect opportunity to show her exactly who I am. The view from my home office overlooks the neighborhood that Margaret tried to steal from me. It's a daily reminder that sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even, it's about rising above, standing your ground, and showing people that their attempts to diminish you only make you stronger. And every morning, when I look out at that view, I smile and think about how sometimes the biggest surprises come in the smallest packages, like a property deed that can turn a manipulative mother-in-law's world upside down. James and I are having dinner on our patio tonight, enjoying the home that's truly ours. In every sense of the word, the sunset is beautiful, the neighborhood is peaceful, and somewhere across town, Margaret is probably still trying to figure out how the quiet real estate agent she tried to steamroll turned out to own half the city. Life has a funny way of working out exactly as it should, and sometimes, justice comes with a property deed and a perfect view of the neighborhood you tried to steal.